Let me share my story in simpler terms using fictional names for privacy. My name here is Denise, and I'm a well-known lawyer in my state. To avoid being recognized, I'll use fake names. My marriage with Kevin, once filled with love, ended in divorce, proving that perhaps our love wasn't as genuine as I thought. The turning point was discovering Kevin's infidelity. Despite his successful business and my own achievements as a lawyer, he saw me as less because I earned less. Kevin's behavior changed over time. He became distant, spent more time away, and frequently went on business trips. My suspicions grew, and while he was away, I found a secret Facebook account on his old laptop confirming my fears. He was cheating on me with a woman who, to him, was more physically appealing than I was, according to his cruel remarks about my looks. Confronting him over the phone, I hoped for some regret, but instead, he blamed me, claiming my dedication to my career and lack of supermodel looks justified his actions. This response shattered any illusions of reconciliation. His cold dismissal of our marriage in favor of his new girlfriend was the last straw. Despite the hurt, this moment was pivotal. It pushed me to take control of my life, refusing to be seen as unworthy by him or anyone else. This story is about overcoming betrayal and finding strength in oneself, despite the pain. In simpler and more detailed terms, I realized I wasn't what Kevin wanted anymore. He blamed me for being a bad partner, though it was he who betrayed our marriage. Far from feeling guilty, he bragged about his affair, claiming his mistress would make a far better wife than me. His hurtful words broke my heart, marking the end of our love that had lasted over a decade. Amidst tears, I confronted him, reminding him of my unwavering support and love over the years, only to be coldly dismissed. Kevin, boasting of his success and belittling my looks and career, declared he had already decided on divorce, instructing me to leave our home. Shortly after, Kevin's friend, with a look of sympathy, delivered the divorce papers to me. Overwhelmed by sorrow, I spent the day crying, mourning the years wasted on a man who now showed his true colors. However, a turning point came with the delivery of those papers. The friend hinted that Kevin aimed to prolong the divorce process, a strategy I didn't understand until I remembered the prenuptial agreement we had signed. According to the prenup, I was entitled to half of his business if he was unfaithful, leading to divorce. This detail explained Kevin's intentions to delay the divorce, hoping I would forfeit my rightful claim. With newfound determination, I decided not only to leave the marriage but also to ensure I received what was rightfully mine. I contacted his lawyer to arrange a meeting and swiftly moved out to my childhood home, ready to start anew and fight for my rights. This decision marked the beginning of a journey to reclaim my life and dignity, teaching Kevin that underestimating me was a mistake he would regret. I had thought about renting out my childhood home but never got around to it. Fortunately, it became my sanctuary during this tumultuous time. After moving out of Kevin's place, I sent him a text to let him know he could return, sarcastically adding that I had removed my ugly face and body from his house. Kevin replied arrogantly, thinking his lawyer's reputation had intimidated me. I made it clear that I was unshaken by his lawyer, reminding him of our prenup and my intention to uphold it. His response was a threat to drag out the divorce, confident that I would eventually give up and not claim part of his business. He insisted on communicating only through lawyers from that point on. Kevin's words reignited my anger, but also my determination. I was amused by his underestimation of me. When I met with his lawyer, Albert, at a cafe, his initial confidence faltered upon realizing who I was. Despite Albert being a competent lawyer, he was not prepared for the challenge of facing me. Kevin, it seemed, had not informed Albert of my legal prowess, leaving him blindsided at our meeting. I approached Albert without intending to intimidate him further. After all, he wasn't the cause of my distress. I greeted him and addressed his surprise at seeing me, clarifying who I was and explaining the discrepancy in our surnames due to my professional use of my maiden name. Albert admitted to being misled by Kevin's intentions for the divorce proceedings. As a lawyer, I'm trained to ask probing questions while maintaining composure, a skill that puts Albert at a disadvantage. Recognizing his discomfort, I chose not to press him further, acknowledging our shared connection to Kevin but making it clear I was prepared to fight for my rights. This encounter underscored my resolve not only to navigate through this divorce, but to emerge with what was rightfully mine, all while maintaining my dignity and professional integrity. Understanding Kevin's thought process all too well, I decided to be upfront with Albert, his lawyer, about the situation. When I questioned Albert about whether Kevin had disclosed his infidelity to him, His reaction confirmed he was in the dark. Admitting to someone that you've been cheated on is never easy. It was a blow to my pride. However, maintaining a composed facade, I didn't let my emotions betray the hurt I felt, knowing I held a strategic advantage in this ordeal. Albert, caught off guard by my revelation, stumbled over his words, indicating that Kevin had not informed him of the affair. Instead, Kevin had preemptively tried to discredit any claims I might make, suggesting I was out to destroy him with baseless accusations. I couldn't help but feel a mix of pity and amusement towards Albert, realizing how Kevin had manipulated him. Despite the awkward compliment about being a great lawyer, Albert admitted feeling outmatched, especially since he was unaware of my legal background. My husband's consistent undervaluation of my career and achievements came as no surprise. His failure to recognize my legal expertise or the significance of the prenuptial agreement we had signed was just another example of this pattern. Albert's astonishment upon learning about the prenup only further highlighted Kevin's oversight or, perhaps, his intentional omission. Presenting Albert with the evidence of the prenup and Kevin's infidelity wasn't just about proving my point. It was about ensuring justice was served. Albert, now visibly shaken and needing to reassess the situation, requested to see the documents and any proof of the affair I possessed. Prepared for this, I provided him with a comprehensive package of evidence, including messages, photos, and relevant documents. My intent was clear: to expedite the divorce process, uphold the terms of our prenup, and close this painful chapter of my life as swiftly and fairly as possible. I had all the evidence neatly tucked away in my handbag, ready to show Albert. Handing over the documents with a casual air, I was confident about the direction this case was taking. Albert took his time, going through each piece of evidence meticulously. When he finally looked up, his expression was one of resignation. He acknowledged the strength of my case and admitted his ignorance of the details. It was clear to me then how challenging it must be for him to deal with a client who wasn't forthcoming, especially when faced with an opponent who is well-versed in the law. Albert mentioned needing to reassess his involvement with Kevin's case after our discussion. It was evident he was considering stepping down, though he hinted someone else might take over the communications. His indirect suggestion didn't surprise me, but I left it at that, thanking him for his time before leaving the cafe. Feeling a mixture of anger and determination, I went straight to my office to work on my divorce papers. The sadness I had felt was replaced by a resolve to ensure Kevin faced the consequences of his actions. It didn't take long for Kevin to break his own rule of no direct contact. He called me, clearly agitated, demanding to know what I had said to make his lawyer quit. His frustration amused me. I played along, hinting at the importance of being honest about the situation and who he was up against. Kevin's threats to find a better lawyer and take me down in court only fueled my determination. I advised him, somewhat cheekily, to make sure his next lawyer was aware of his infidelity and our prenuptial agreement. His response was to abruptly hang up. I couldn't help but laugh at his predicament. I knew he would struggle to find a lawyer willing to take his case, given my reputation in the legal community and the solid evidence I had against him. True to my predictions, Kevin eventually had no other option but to come back, likely to negotiate. His arrogance had led him into a corner, and now he was facing the reality of the situation. I was prepared for whatever came next, confident in my position and the legal standing I had meticulously prepared for. Kevin's underestimation of me was his downfall, and I was ready to see this through to the end, ensuring that justice was served in my favor. As I was preparing for work one morning, a knock at the door took me by surprise. It was an unexpected visitor, especially at such an early hour. My astonishment grew when I opened the door to see Kevin, my estranged husband, looking defeated and worn out. Reluctantly, I let him in, preferring to avoid any public spectacle. I immediately made it clear that I was not interested in a lengthy discussion, reminding him of our agreement to communicate through lawyers. Kevin confessed he hadn't yet secured a divorce lawyer, a situation I found rather ironic, given his rush to move on with his mistress. He attempted to accuse me of sabotaging his efforts to find legal representation, a claim I found ludicrous. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of his accusation, explaining that his actions and deceit regarding the affair and prenuptial agreement were the real reasons behind his difficulty. It seemed he finally understood the weight of his dishonesty and how it made him an undesirable client for any reputable lawyer. His realization came too late. The terms of our ironclad prenuptial agreement, which he had insisted on, were clear and now worked against him. Kevin had hoped to find a legal loophole or delay the proceedings long enough to dissuade me from claiming my rightful share of his business. However, he underestimated my resolve and the professional respect I command in the legal community. His last-ditch effort to appeal to my sympathy by crying and pleading for me to leave his business intact was both pathetic and telling. He begged me not to enforce the clause that entitled me to half of the business in the event of his infidelity, a clause he had once been so eager to include. Despite his pleas, I remained unmoved. His betrayal, packaged with a shallow apology, could not erase the pain and disrespect he had shown. Kevin's mistake was not just his infidelity, but underestimating my strength and determination to uphold my rights. I was firm in my decision to claim what was rightfully mine, not just for the sake of justice, but as a testament to my self-worth and the consequences of his actions. Kevin's plea for us to reconsider our marriage, under the guise that overcoming this challenge would make us stronger, was almost comical. His audacity knew no bounds. The idea of reuniting after everything, considering his paused affair and the evident dissatisfaction it brought both him and his mistress, was absurd to me. I had already learned my lesson from marrying him and was not about to repeat it. His sudden desperation to reconcile was transparently linked to his fear of losing half his business in the divorce. I couldn't help but express how delusional his suggestion was. I've come too far in life to make such a naive mistake again. I knew his motives weren't about rekindling old love, but about protecting his assets. His promises to end things with his mistress and pleas to overlook this mistake for the sake of our happiness didn't sway me. I saw this as my opportunity to escape a marriage that was nothing but a facade, grateful that his true nature was revealed before any children were involved. His begging for me not to claim my rightful share of his business was pitiful, yet it did not affect me emotionally. Instead, it reminded me of the pain he caused me, and seeing him now at a low point felt like just retribution. Determined to move forward, I ignored his attempts to win me back. I was focused on starting anew, far removed from his drama. Having already initiated the divorce proceedings, I engaged a colleague to represent me, aiming to minimize any personal interactions with Kevin. Despite his efforts, he eventually realized the futility of his position and sought a lawyer for a straightforward settlement, knowing full well the embarrassment a court battle would bring upon him. This journey, while painful, brought me to a realization of my strength and the importance of standing up for oneself. Kevin's eventual concession was a testament to the power of resilience and the inevitable downfall of those who underestimate it. Facing the prospect of further legal expenses and realizing the prenuptial agreement left him with little room to maneuver, Kevin agreed to a mutual division of assets. This prenup, which clearly outlined the consequences of infidelity, required him to forfeit half of his business to me. Although he was reluctant, the evidence of his unfaithfulness left him no choice but to comply. We even offered him the chance to buy out my share, but his finances were in disarray, largely because of his extravagant spending on his mistress, who, realizing the well had run dry, had ceased all communication with him. It seemed her reputation for opportunism had preceded her, leaving her isolated in the aftermath. As for Kevin, losing half his business significantly impacted his lifestyle. Forced to sell his house due to financial constraints and unable to keep up with the mortgage, he downscaled to a condo, a stark contrast to his previous opulence. Despite these setbacks, he made a futile attempt to reconcile with me, evidently hoping to restore his fortunes. However, that ship had long since sailed. In contrast, my situation has improved substantially. I've delegated the management of my portion of Kevin's business to a capable individual, and the venture is thriving. Coupled with my income from my legal practice, my financial status has allowed me to upgrade my lifestyle significantly, including the purchase of a new mansion. This turn of events has not only elevated my living conditions, but also affirmed my resilience and savvy in navigating through the ordeal. This entire episode has underscored a satisfying reversal of fortunes. Rather than falling victim to Kevin and his mistress's schemes, I emerged victorious, enhancing my own life while their short-sighted actions led to their downfall. It's a testament to the adage that what goes around comes around, and in this case, justice and a bit of poetic justice have prevailed, allowing me to enjoy the fruits of my perseverance and astuteness.